Welcome to part 12 of our Dying Light 2 Stay Human Developer Tools Guide. In this video, we're going to talk about sound. Before we start, go to Viewport and make sure you have mute level sounds turned off. We'll be working a lot with our ears in this episode, so it's important that we hear everything. With that out the way, we'll begin with ambient sound. We use them to make the environment feel more alive so that it adds to the immersion and realism of the game. Find a big outdoor location, like a rooftop. Our goal for now will be to create 2 ambient zones. Open our level and set it as a target. Go to the prefab browser, choose the prefabs category, search for Audio Ambient Zone, click on the Ambient Zone prefab and place it somewhere in the viewport window. In the toolbar, find Filters, open the drop-down menu, and press the double squared icon next to Sound to make it visible. Make sure your grid toolbar is checked on, and the coordinate system is set to local. Feel free to expand the ambient zone a bit in the viewport. That way the sound will cover a larger area. Making the zone smaller will, of course, shrink it. With our ambient zone selected, your attributes window should say Audio Ambient Zone. We're going to go to Fields and then to Sound. Look for Event Name and press the 3 dots. Events in general are a type of command that the engine has to then carry out. In this case, we'll pick the sound we want our ambient zone to play. Typing in the word ambience will automatically bring up all the ambient choices that exist in our editor. Let's go with Ambience Lake. Press OK. To check if the audio is working, first we'll need to save and reload our level. Then make our way inside the ambient zone. We can hear the sound. Therefore, it works. Let's open and set as target level. And once more select our ambient zone. Bear in mind that some ambient sounds will only work if they meet specific criteria. For example, Ambience Global will not play certain parts of its track if a specified location in the game is not occupied by the Peacekeepers. So, if you ever end up selecting one and you find that it's not fully working, there's a high chance it simply isn't compatible with your custom map. You'll need to choose a different ambience event from the list. And here we have it, our first ambient zone. Now create a second ambient zone inside of our current one. Use the same method as before. For the purpose of this tutorial, go with a different event name than before. For example, Ambience Goon Awake. Alright, now save and reload our level to check if it works. It works. So let's open our level once more. Next, select our smaller ambient zone. Under Ambient Zone, find Aux Bus Name. Here, we're going to choose our reverb type. Press the 3 dots and go with Basement Big. Next, go to Aux Bus Value to change the intensity of the reverb. 1 is our default value of max intensity, but you can set it to anything between 0.0 and 1 depending on how much reverb you want to hear. Set it to 1 for now. Simple enough. Now for Acoustic Insulation. This determines how much of the ambience from the larger outside zone will leak into the smaller ones on the inside. We can change the value from 0 to 100 here. Go with 100. Move the camera into the smaller ambient zone. You won't hear any other ambient sound coming in from the outside. Change that value to 0 and we will hear the maximum amount of outer zone ambience. Play around with it for a bit to find what you consider to be the perfect balance, depending on your desired effect. For now, we can change it to 100. So, in our viewport, we have 2 ambient zones, one larger than the other. Despite that, the engine will prioritize the smaller ambient zone whenever the player enters it. This is an automatic setting. It determines which sound is more important when there are 2 or more ambient zones. To change that default order, we have to focus on the Aux Bus Priority property. So first, let's venture back into the smaller zone. Select the bigger ambient zone in the viewport. Under Aux Bus Priority, set the value to 2. Now, select the smaller one and leave its Aux Bus Priority at 1. Even though its insulation is set to 100, we can hear the sound from the bigger ambient zone because it has a greater priority number. The aux bus name of the small zone will also stop working. To revert all this, change the aux bus priority from the smaller ambient zone from 1 to 3. This way it can once again assume priority over the larger ambient zone, which has its value set to 2. Installation 100 and aux bus name of the small ambient zone should work again. So far, we've learned how to choose and alter the sound inside the ambient zone. M-active radius, however, allows us to decide how far the sound travels outside its own area. Let's leave this zone. We can't hear this ambience out here, but set the value to 50 meters and you'll hear it even here. As we fly further away, the sound will become quieter until we will no longer hear it past the 50-meter mark. Players within this radius will also be able to tell the direction of where the sound is coming from. Keep in mind that this feature is impervious to what we call occlusion, meaning the volume of the sound is not affected by objects, obstacles, or structures like walls. This is mainly why we use the technique for outdoor ambience. Let's move on to point emitters. We use them to pinpoint the position of a particular sound in 3D space. Go to our prefab browser and look up audio point emitter. Place it on the map. In the Attributes window under Fields, we will open the sound category. In the event name, we will choose the sound we want to play, similar to how we have done before. Press the 3 dots and select an audio file. Again, remember that if a selected event doesn't fully work, you should consider looking for a different one. Using the prefix SFX often helps when looking for audio events that best work with point emitters. For now, search Fire in Barrel and choose it. We can now hear it coming from that specific point in our 3D space. Let's move on to ambience for interiors. Try to recall room boxes you learned about in a previous lighting tutorial. They're also important if you're ever working on interior audio. Let's find a random room on our map. Turn on the Visualizations helper. This will make it easier for us to see the boxes that we will be working on. Go to Options and press the 2 squares icon next to Visualizations. Search for Room Box in the prefab browser and place it on the map. We use them for lighting, but we can also connect a sound functionality to save time and then not have to create another ambient zone from scratch. Create a new prefab from this room box. Right-click it, left-click Create Prefab Form Selected and give it a name. Right-click it, open and set it as a target. Extend it, select Room Box and scale it up to cover the whole interior. Just like in previous tutorials, you can generate ENV probes for this room to change the lighting. I'm going to speed up this process since you already know how to do it. Now let's focus on sound again. Go to our prefab browser and search for Room Logic. Click it and place it in our interior. Press Escape, and we have them. Our room box, which covers our interior area for lighting, as well as our room logic, which we use to attach and work on sound property. Lastly, we have to connect our 2 prefabs in order for our sound to work. Make sure your room logic is located under the same parent prefab as the room box in the scene window. The room logic and room box are now in the same prefab. Select our room logic and open its Attributes window. In Fields, open General. In M Areas, we're going to drop Room Box into our room logic. Lock the room logic Attributes window so that it doesn't disappear when we select something else. Find Room Box and drag it to M Areas. That should do it. Now that they're connected, you can work on both lighting and sound at the same time. Unlock the current Attributes window if you want. Don't forget to save. Find your parent prefab. In my case, that will be Interior Audio. Right-click and press Save and Reload. Let's open our parent prefab and set it as target one more time. Now, select our room logic. With that out of the way, we can set our ambient event name, radius, and other properties in attributes similar to how it was done with the outer ambient zones. So click the 3 dots next to the event group and search for ambience to find sounds like ambience catacombs. Save and reload our prefab one last time. And just like that, our sound appears to be working. Never forget to save our level. And that's all for part 12. In the next video, we'll teach you more about music zones. Thanks for watching.